What's poppin'? What's poppin'? You are now watching Juke Boy Sports Show. I'm your host, King Ralph, here with my homie and my co-host, the homie. What's poppin', bro?
Yo, I'm good, man. Happy to be here, man. I'm ready for some sports, for some NBA season. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just happy, man. It's good to see you, bro. Always.
Good to see you too, Brody. Um, we all going, man. Doing good out here in Cali. Just got back to the hotel room from Universal Studios.
Living life over there, man.
That's good. Weather's good.
Yeah.
Unless you red sunlight, then that's when like life is not. But we gonna go. Before we get everything jumping, before we send a shout out to the sponsors, make sure you follow all our socials. Go on Facebook, YouTube, type in the He Say She Say all one word channel. Make sure you go on my socials for TikTok, Instagram, as well as Twitch with the same one that's on the screen at an underscore, and that's the one for Twitter.
Mm-hmm. And you can follow me on IG at the.houseofhoops. Once again, on IG at the.houseofhoops. Just grab my notes right here. All right.
And then make sure if you want to do any podcasts like what you're watching, music videos, photo shoots, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fit Boxer. And we had an interesting week when it comes to football. Some good, some bad, some ugly. What are 3 takeaways from week 4, bro?
Okay, so I do have 3 takeaways. My first takeaway is that Saquon Barkley is the New York Giants. Once again, Saquon Barkley is the New York Giants. All this, oh, you should trade him. No, you don't trade the franchise, fools. You keep the franchise. I just hit up my homie. Shout out to my homie Adriel, the depressed New York Giants fan. Um, Man, he gonna send me some hate mail. But after this, but shout out to him, man, because I know he's been going through it, man, for the longest time with these Giants. But Saquon Barkley, what did he say, Ralph? He said, I'm gonna pretty much said like F the haters, F for everyone. I'm coming this season. And he performed at a amazing level. Last game, I believe he had 31 carries, 146 yards. I believe he had like 2 catches. Not quite sure if he got a touchdown, but he's been running roughshod on NFL teams and ran roughshod on that Bears defense in the last game. And so that's my takeaway. I believe that he is going to be the comeback player of the year if he stays healthy at this point. My next takeaway is the Baltimore Ravens. And we're going to get into them when we get into our power rankings. Their biggest weakness is their inability to make coaching adjustments and also in terms of situational play calling. Situational play calling last season without Lamar Jackson when he missed those last 5 games of the season when they had Tyler Huntley, they were in games by a different point differential, I think of like 3 points or less. Remember the Giants, the Packers, the Rams, the eventual Super Bowl defending champion Rams, and John Harbaugh and his over-reliance on analytics and going for 2 points cost them the game over and over and over again. When me and you have both said many a times, you have the greatest kicker in NFL history on your sideline, utilize him. So that's a problem. If you're going to go for 2, it's not you don't trust Lamar, whatever. Lamar's cool with it. He said he's cool with it, but you need to properly execute said play. We saw Devin Duvernay wide open in the end zone, but Lamar got rushed because the offensive line wasn't able to block him. He said in the post-game press conference, they're like, Lamar, what did you see? He's like, I saw Duvernay late. All I saw was this. He said, all I saw was this. I saw 2 defenders with their hands in front of me. And so then he's like, yeah, I'm trying to move and I'm backing. I'm like, well, maybe if I back out and then I can see him and I try to make a play. And then Poyer is able to cover that ground, obviously, and get that pick. So none of that would actually happen had we just gone for 3. We're up 3. Worst case scenario, the Bills somehow tie the game. We go into overtime, and the Ravens might have a chance to get the ball back. So that's my next one. And then my final one, my final takeaway, Ralph, let me pull it up really quick. I'm sorry, real quick. Okay, cool. The Super Bowl hangover for the Rams is real. Scored 9 points versus the 49ers. They're going to get every team's best shot, and they look horrible. So that's all I got, man. Go ahead.
First off, man, I think that to piggyback off of that same game, I think Trey Lance's injury might be a blessing in disguise. When you, it's one of those things, man. You kind of we talked about it. Garoppolo is he's not a ceiling raiser,
right?
But he's a quality starter. He's been to a Super Bowl, or he's been to an NFC Championship game. Has he been to a Super Bowl? Am I tripping? I feel like he has.
Yes, he has. He lost. He airmailed the throw to
the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, I think he airmailed the throw to Deebo Samuel, or someone.
Yeah, and
I remember they was up 10.
Right, and so he's been to a Super Bowl. The team, the defense is playing is hitting on all cylinders. We got a healthy George Kittle. You got Deebo balling. Mitchell is balling. You got weapons, and I think that the Trey Lance. Me personally, I don't feel like he was ready.
Right. He didn't have enough tape. I mean, not tape, but games underneath his belt.
Yeah. He didn't get enough reps for me, and so
reps.
I think that having Garoppolo back in the game is going to be a blessing in disguise. In the end, I think that you have the defense getting after the quarterback. It was so many times that not Garoppolo but Stafford was under pressure, but at the same time, it is one of those things where the Rams have shown that they can't beat the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, excuse me. On to my next point. The Raiders, Las Vegas fans have some hope. I understand that 0-3 doesn't look good. I understand that we beat the Broncos, and the Broncos don't look like Russell Wilson doesn't look like the Russell Wilson of old.
Pour out some liquor for him, man.
For whatever reason that is, I don't know. I'm not sure. But I got a text message from the homie. Shout out to the homie Tar with us signing Blake Martinez, who was a 4-time tackle. He's a tackling machine. 4 times he went over 100 in a season. Only 27 coming off of a ACL knee injury. So I think with plugging him in, if he can be even 90% of what he was before, him with a Denzel Perriman gives us a solid linebacker core. And so to add that into how the team is playing, you got Crosby getting after the quarterback in the last game. You got Chandler Jones still being healthy at this point. Then we got where that would help save some of the back end as far as injuries, because Rock was out of the game, and we've had some issues with injuries and just being young. But Amik Robertson had a fumble recovery for 6. Which was good, which was big. Nate Hobbs played very well. You see Nate and Harmon playing really well, as well as Trayvon Moehrig playing very well. The back end looks a little better, but we'll see. But for me personally, I'm always going to be optimistic. The only thing that's going to stop us is, because I believe we have all the talent in the world, is McDaniel's got to stop thinking he's the smartest guy in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And just stop trying to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do all of that. When we get a lead, give the ball to Jacobs. Because he's a quality back. If you talk to anybody, I don't understand why Jacobs doesn't get the looks that he should. If he was on any other offense, even like last year, like the offenses that we've just been running, is like, you have a top 10 running back. Use him.
Coaching.
Like every year he should go for 1,000.
Right.
So to finish up on my last point, I really think that to me personally, it's this, but this is my personal bias.
That's fair.
Kirk Cousins has to show me, but I think the Vikings have the makings to be a Super Bowl contending team this season. And I don't think that's far-fetched. I don't think
I'm going to say that.
I don't think it's it's no like bold prediction, but like for me, I think that it's just for me watching football and watching how they've played. I'm willing to say it out loud, but that's where I say my personal bias comes in, where Kirk Cousins got to show me, but I think that they have the talent. You have Thielen, Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, and then you have a really good defense who's getting after the quarterback, and they got good, talented corners, young corners, and they got more than just Dalvin Cook. Is Mattingly is a quality. I just was looking on my fantasy team this morning and looking to see who if I could pick up and get better at any point. It's bro, I'm 2-2.
I'm
And
1-3.
this loss that I just had, the one that I sent you the picture of,
Yeah, that was
hurts the most. When you lose by 0.6 points, not even a full point. This 0.6.
Bro. Yahoo scoring system's rigged, man. That's what it is. That's what it is, man. Rigged.
But those are my 3 takeaways.
I like those.
Season is good. In a
As
second,
Kirk Cousins would say, I like that.
Exactly. And so, like, we're gonna get to it a little later as far as if you're waiting for us to talk about Tua and his injury, but we're gonna talk about that a little later. College football top 25 rankings was released. What sticks out to you?
What sticks out to me obviously is your boys, man. Your boys sticking out, man, like a sore thumb. Like Rich Homie Quan feeling like the man when they walk through, man. You know what I'm saying? Look, man, Ohio State #1 in the AP rankings. Oh, snap. They overtook the Georgias and the Bamas and all that. So here's how I feel, right? So what I did, I looked at these rankings and I thought to myself, because obviously there's 25 teams, but I didn't watch every single team because I don't have every single minute of time in my life to do that. But I wanted to kind of hone in on those top 5 teams and seeing Ohio State doing what they were able to do this past weekend, Georgia, etc. And I had to ask myself, do I agree with that? And you know what, Ralph, what I'm about to say? I'm going to say I do. And I picked Georgia to win the championship. I'm not necessarily saying I'm backing off that because it's still early, but the schedule favors them. Cool, but all these teams are 5-0. Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Clemson, Alabama. Excuse me, right? But what I like about Ohio State, because I have my notes right here in front of me, is that they have their depth and they have defense. 2 keys that you need as the season wanes, right? Your defense is actually improving as the season has gone on. It's like you remember we were talking about. I remember I was talking to you earlier, in the season or whatever, about potential in their offense and etc. Well, you have the best offense in the country right now, #1 scoring offense, number 10 in total defense, and so I look at Alabama and the fact that they had a great win, but your quarterback is in question, and Bryce Young, because now I believe what did he injure his shoulder? If I'm not mistaken, it was the shoulder that he hurt. So now
throwing shoulder though, but I could be wrong.
Okay. But we don't know the extent of the shoulder injury. And so I always say a team without a quarterback, not saying he's out for the season or anything like that, but I'm just saying when you have a without quarterback or limitations to a quarterback, especially a team of Alabama's caliber, that gives me cause to pause. So right now, based off the fact
it was his throwing shoulder. It's a sprain.
Okay. Shoulder. Oh yeah. Okay. So a Heisman quarterback, right?
Right.
You take that into consideration, and the fact that also the team that I picked, Georgia. Okay, I'm sorry though, Ralph, but they didn't look good against Mizzou. Like, Missouri. Why are you struggling against Mizzou? It's the SEC. It's the SEC, but you were supposed to be the creme de la creme, the B's and E's, as people used to say back before me and you were born, man. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, so I'm like, I got all the sayings today. So I have to put Ohio State ahead of those teams because this is a week-to-week basis. So I'm going to go with Ohio State, and I believe also off potential, their ceiling is high, and they're one of the teams that can win the championship. So in terms of what I disagree with, I actually agree with Ohio State jumping over all those other teams. All right.
Yeah. I'm like, for me, man, I'm sitting here looking at the list, and I might be looking at the wrong one, but because this says it was
AP.
Second, we're still at 3rd, according to this. It says it was released on October 2nd, according to AP News.
Maybe I'm looking, or maybe that, or excuse me, did I say? I think I said where I was putting them at. Then I think that might have been what it was.
3rd. Yeah. I mean, they should be 1st, just because of the dominant factor they are winning.
You're right. They 3rd. Bama was 1. Georgia was 2. So what I was my bad. So what I was saying was I would flip it and I would put Ohio State 1. Okay, so instead of 3-2, when I go 1-2, instead of go 1-2-3, I go 3-2-1. Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Alabama 3rd because of the loss of the quarterback. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And then after that, we go with the the Michigans and the Clemson. Okay, go ahead.
For me, man, I
Yeah.
think I definitely agree with you. I probably would still give Bama that 2 spot just
Okay.
because Georgia didn't look good. I can't
Yeah.
rank you based on games you haven't played yet.
Right.
So
Right. That's true.
it's although it doesn't look good for Bryce being out, Bryce not being able to finish the game, they still finished the game strong against a ranked opponent.
Right. So for the
Whereas
week, right.
Georgia didn't look good against an unranked opponent.
Right.
Although they were able to come back and get the victory. It is going to be a curious run for Bama. If you go and you look at their upcoming schedule, there's a lot of ranked teams coming up. They're facing the likes of an Ole Miss. They're facing the likes of a Tennessee, both of which are ranked in the top 10.
Yeah.
As we speak. So we'll see what happens next. I think Ohio State has a little bit of a easier schedule. Like I talked about before, strength of schedule is going to take place. But at the same time, when you're dominating in the fashion in which they are with a versatile offense, not so one-dimensional last year, and I talked about this when we were talking when the last time we talked about college football and the rankings, as well as who had a legitimate chance of winning the championship. I wanted to see that versatility. So last week we had 2 runners go for 200, as well as the being able to dominate through the air as well. So I do think that we've showed that we have a top 10 defense, like you said. We have the number 1 offense in the country. And so I do want to see what direction that goes in, how well we fare once we get into the better teams in our conferences. So when we get into we've already destroyed a Wisconsin. Michigan State doesn't look that good. Nebraska's not doing that well. So I want to see how we fare against the Marylands, the Michigans. I can't wait for the Michigan game, but that's literally the last game of the season. So
Yeah.
I do think that Georgia and Bama will have the opportunity to put themselves above us because of the strength of schedule. But as long as we can run through our conference and stop getting to a point where we always have a really good team, but then we'll struggle against Iowa. We'll struggle against a Northwestern. Something else I think kind of interesting is Clemson with DJ.
Yes.
They're 5-0 right now, and they're still finding ways to win games, but it's like they're not winning the games in the manner in which
you would think for a top 5. Yeah.
Finish games. So for them to be top 5 is just very interesting to me.
So would you say they might be pretenders? Maybe not a bad team, but they're just not the top 3.
I think they're getting that top 5 ranking because it's Clemson. Where like the USC is looking good, playing very well. That wide receiver that transferred from Pitt is dominating, and so I don't. His name is I'm losing his name right now, but I thought I had it, and I was getting ready to say it, and I was just like, yeah, I don't have it. But I believe he's the favorite to win the Blitnikoff.
Oh, the Fred Blitnikoff, award. Yeah, okay.
I think he's going to win that one, but I'm curious to see what happens next in these upcoming weeks. Next up, we got the Suns in an exhibition game losing to the 36ers. Is that a G League team? Or is that like what league do they play in?
I have no idea because I watched the highlights and I was like, yo, these dudes is killing them, man. I was like, what? And then it was all over the place on social media. And so, and then DeAndre Ayton was like, yeah, those dudes is nice. I was like, okay, but what about you, man?
Bro, they were
killing. But I want to find out if they're a G League team or what, or a Pro-Am team. I don't know. I'm not going to disrespect them like that. Those are professionals. But it was called the Alada 36ers.
Men's basketball team.
The what?
They're an Australian professional team.
Right. Yeah. Because
which is wild. It's the way that they were hooping. You would have thought put these dudes in the league.
Oh yeah. And
And
they
so,
had bigs that could shoot, like
yeah.
bro, stretch bigs. Because go ahead.
But to finish up, me and you have talked about it before. I want to say the
Right.
last time we talked about the Suns, you brought up
Yeah.
how the end of that organization contending for championships.
Mm-hmm.
Loss signify that statement.
So I'm gonna speak how I feel, like in the fact that like this particular loss, I wouldn't say 100% has necessarily to do with that, but I feel like there's remnants of it. The reason why I say that is because they lost by 33 points to the Mavs in Game 7. So that's the first thing, right? They lost by 33 points to the Mavs. Then, like you mentioned so eloquently, like we brought up DeAndre Ayton's contract situation. We brought up him and not him saying he hasn't spoken or whatever to the coach in what was 7 months or something like that. So you have a lack of communication. I don't want to put words in his mouth if that's not what he said, but I know there was lack of communication. You have Chris Paul looking old, like he needs to retire. You have Devin Booker on the 2K23 curse. I don't even know why he was on the cover. Anyway, so shots fired.
Yeah.
So like you have that, but also Ralph, it's more than just that. I was trying to find an article because I pulled up the article. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the first time an NBA team had lost to like an international and exhibition or something like that, or Australian team or something like that, like in last whatever years or first time ever. And so that's why it was such a big deal. So when you're the first for something to happen, that doesn't bode well. Now, I'll end it with this. Swing it back your way. Me and you had a great conversation last year about the preseason. Does the preseason matter? Uh-oh. And sometimes we're like, well, it's the preseason, no one really cares, la da la, the real season doesn't start till after December. That's what we always say, right? But the way them Lakers was getting destroyed last year, I remember you came on here, it's like, bruh. Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like them Lakers gonna be bad, bro.
Right.
And Tara, shout out to Tara. Tara was trying to tell everyone that, because I even at one point I was like, well, maybe LeBron will find a way, whatever. But I'm not picking them in the championship. I was like, they'll probably lose to the Bucks if they make it to it. And lo and behold, he was really the right one because they couldn't defend a parked car. So when I see some of these teams losing in the preseason, and I know of how the Suns went down last year, I just have them not being a top 3 team in the West. I believe they could be a 5, a 6 seed, but
Right.
I'm not saying they're going to sink to oblivion. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's some remnants, but I'm not going to put the Australian team because there may have been some of them underestimating them vastly. Let me see how they play, Ralph, against maybe, let's say, I don't know who's on the preseason schedule, the Rockets, something like that.
Right.
Give me an NBA preseason game, see how people's legs are, That's all I got. That's all I got, man.
I think it's I think with how bad the loss looks, like the question is how bad is a loss. And I think it's really bad and it looks really bad. The optics of it is terrible because when you go and you watch the game, mind you, the team that they're playing normally plays they play within FIBA rules, which the 3-point line is 18 inches closer, which is a significant difference between the two. But still, playing with this in the NBA with NBA 3-point line, they hit 24 of 43 threes.
That's crazy.
Where Craig Randall and Robert Franks combined for 67 points and 15 threes between the two of them. So then when you go and you look at how many points were scored in the game as a whole,
right?
They accounted for almost half of their team's points. Then Cameron Payne led the team with 23 points.
Well, that's a problem, but anyway.
only had 13. Chris Paul did have 12 assists. So it's like sit there and try to say, they weren't really trying. Them dudes was out there like, shout out to the kid Gowie. They was fighting for their life out there.
Yeah.
And so Mitch McCarron had 16 assists for the 36ers. So it's like they went out there and they were balling. So the reason why it looks so bad, to answer the question, it looks terrible because if you go and you're watching, they were actually playing defense. They were actually trying to get buckets, and they just were unable to. Now, if they were to play 10 more games, the 36ers would probably lose every one of those 10 games.
We hope. Right, they should. They should.
Because,
no, they should. Though. They really should, though.
Used to playing on that size of a court. So
definitely. Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're hitting over 50% from three.
And they're a bad team, too. The team that they beat, the 36ers, they says they finished 7th out of 10 teams in the NBL last season with a 10-18 record. So for them to play one of the lesser teams,
right,
and get whacked, and then the Suns were 9 for 34 from outside the arc. I mean, yeah, that's horrible. Yeah,
right. And so it's like that. They're
9 for 34.
And as you mentioned before, I'm not sure if you. I didn't necessarily hear, but they're the first team to lose to a non-NBA team since Thunder to the Real Madrid. Mind you, Luka played on that team.
See, context matters. Good. Hey, that's a good gem right there.
Luka did play on that team. This loss is probably worse considering that the Thunder probably weren't. I think, the Thunder had already lost KD. And I don't think Russ played.
Okay.
So just to put it in context of the losses and how bad one is versus the other, Luka did play for Real Madrid at that moment when she was like a teenager, but still.
Yeah.
They beat them by 5, where this loss is like the way that they lost. One dude had 35, another dude had 32, another guy had 16 assists. So the optics of it, especially with the coach being sexist, misogynistic, racist, the worst triple threats you could possibly have right now. And so then the coach and DeAndre Ayton not talking since last year. Since the end of last season, all of this put together, the optics of it was really, really bad.
And that's why I don't have them as a top team in the West this year. But they'll still be talented, and they'll win games.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what are their chances of winning a championship this year? Before we go to the next topic,
5 out of 10. That's actually not bad because that means you have a 50% chance to win. I'd say 5.
I got them at a 4. I got them like,
oh wow, okay, oh wow, you got lower than 5. Whoa, okay.
I got them at a 4.
I'm actually surprised. Yeah, go ahead.
Like you said, why is Devin Booker on the cover? I think people are way too high on Devin Booker. Like I just don't get it, bro. Like as a person that doesn't lock up,
all right. Like
you lose by 30 in a game 7, and you was out there talking all the trash. So you got to go out there and show me. I'm gonna put you at a 4.
I got one for you.
I need you to take leadership, so Chris Paul doesn't have to do so much.
I got one for you, and I'm not saying that he's head and shoulders above him. I'm not saying he's better than him, and I'm not saying that he's not better than him. It's just some food for thought. And obviously he has another scorer on his team, a 27-point per game scorer that can shoot 60% from the field returning. But based off of the fact that he did average 27, 7, and 6 on like 50, I don't know, whatever percent shooting, scores from all 3 levels, seems to have ascended to another level, performed in the playoffs versus the same said team. And no one on that team was able to stop him. As Jay-Z would call me, grown man B.I., Brandon Ingram, man. That dude's game is so cold, bro. And he's going to be a matchup nightmare this year again. especially with Zion. That pick and roll, no one's going to stop that. CJ in the cut, you can't account for all the shooters. Who would you rather have moving forward? Brandon Ingram or Devin Booker? I know who I'm picking. Me personally, I'm going to go with B.I. actually.
Yeah, I'm going to go with B.I. too. Just
B.I. Okay.
Bigger. He's longer
Okay.
in multiple positions.
Okay.
I just a more effective scorer.
Mm-hmm.
I think he takes the better shot selection.
Yeah.
And it's easier to use him on 2K. So every time I try to play with Devin Booker, I take it. And so, yeah, no. On to the next.
I don't like his release on 2K. It bothers me. But anyway.
I don't know. And so our host, it's a couple different storylines. I think depending on how much time we have at the end, we're going to talk about Aaron Judge because he just passed.
Oh, yeah.
Years for AL home run king. But for right now, we talk about Albert Pujols. He just passed Babe Ruth for second in the RBI list.
703
home runs. He just joined the 700 club as well. Is he making his case that he's the GOAT? Although we've talked about who our GOAT is, there still is that stigma that he took steroids. So if we have to take him off the list and have to put someone there who is not attached to steroids, although there was Albert Pujols' name was on that list.
Exactly. So I was like,
nobody wants to talk about that one.
Right.
But is he making his case that he's the GOAT?
Well, I'll say this. He's making a case for his financial advisor as being a GOAT and his agent for getting him that 10-year contract he signed all them years ago. But no, it's like, why you gotta talk about the man's money, man? No, I'm all about getting money. You know what I'm saying? So I salute the hustler, man. Shout out to Albert Pujols, man. Sign me a baseball one day if I ever see you, man. But yeah, actually, I actually do believe so. Why? Because he's been able to maintain a high level for a long period of time. Now, obviously, he's on the back end of his career, and there was, we talked. I think we had a segment. It's like wow, way back. We did an Albert Pujols segment and about his play and all that kind of stuff. But when I used to look at things like batting average and his home run hitting ability and his longevity, Albert Pujols, for me personally, he's someone who can make a case when you're talking about doing it without the steroids or whatever. Recovery, recovery time, being able to play at that age, a milestone. You need to be able to make, had to have accomplish certain milestones and stuff like that. And so being able to pass Babe Ruth, someone who played, when did Babe Ruth play? 40s or earlier than that?
This man
long time.
He played before my grandmother was alive. My granny was alive.
So he played in the days of like Woodrow Wilson or whatever and all that, man, and bifocals and all that. So
TVs didn't exist when he played.
Yeah. So TVs and it's hey, look, man. Hey, he played during the days when Murray's pomade was invented, man. Before I Love Lucy and Ricky Ricardo, man.
Orange can.
That orange can,
yeah. Openly racist.
Hey, look, man. I always wanted to like that orange. I always wanted to put a candle on that can because it smells so good. I'm like, oh, it's a candle. You know what I'm saying? But anyway. But no, yeah, pretty much like what I'm saying without going back and forth. Yeah, I do believe that he can be in discussion. Why not?
Yeah.
So.
I think that like me and you, we always talk about when we're talking about GOATs, we always talk about what are you the GOAT at?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you go and you look from 2001, which is his rookie season, he was 21 years old, all the way to the age of 35 in 2015. He had one season with less than 100 runs scored.
Wow.
No, not less than 100, less than 85, in which he played a full season. He only had one season that he went under 85. So with that one season, he didn't even play. He didn't even play 100 games. So then when you start to look, then you go back and you look at his RBIs. he was consistently in that same time period. He only had 3 seasons in which he didn't have 100 RBIs. But then one
Mm.
year was 99, another year was 95, and the year in which he didn't play the full season, he had 65 RBIs. So
Wow.
then when you start to look at his home runs, he was always in that around that 40 mark, and he hit for average. So I
Mhm.
think which is another thing for me. I think that we don't really talk about that like we should.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because in baseball, if you get 3 hits out of every 10 chances, that's a good thing. Where in basketball, if you hit 3 out of 10 shots, get on my bench.
Oh yeah, get him out. Yeah, yeah.
Get him
You're
out
not
of here.
shooting anymore. I'm not even passing you the rock.
Don't
You
even
know.
look him off. Like,
Right.
oh, we're good. We're not even going over there. Don't swing it. And so
Yeah.
he was consistently like he had a few seasons where he hit 330, 315,
Mhm.
360, 330, 330, 330, 327, 357, 327. And these are
Mm.
in back to back seasons, like over an 8 to 9 year period.
Right.
He's going up and getting hits after hits after hits. And I hated him for the longest time because he was playing for the Cardinals while doing this. Once he got
Mhm.
out of my division, all right, cool, I can root for you now. And
Mhm.
so I think just being a pure hitter of the ball, putting the ball in the play, getting people on base, getting hits in, I think as a hitter, he is arguably one of the greatest hitters of all time.
Yeah.
Now, when we start talking about being the GOAT, I think that's why Barry Bonds, the Derek Jeters, get to have get to be they have a stronger case. Ken Griffey Jr. get to have that stronger case because they were
Mhm.
more than just hitters.
Hitters. They were Bonds was Golden Glove fielder.
Even Ken Griffey before them back injuries was
Yeah,
golden.
before the back. Yeah, the numerous back injuries he had. Yeah.
Hitting for
So
average, hitting
all
for
around players.
getting batters in,
Yeah.
gold gloves, saving
Mhm.
when you're able to save runs while
Yeah.
also making runs. That's
Yeah.
where for me, I like that versatility. Not to put any light or put any bad light because I love pitching too. So like the Randy
Right.
Johnsons, the Pedro Martinez's, those are like the goats to me. Nolan Ryan for
Yeah.
what he was able to do throwing a no-hitter at 45, 46 years old
That's crazy.
in the 70s and the 80s is wild. And
Yeah.
so I think that Pujols has definitely put his case, but I think with him you got to put not an asterisk, but put him into a category.
Context. Okay.
What
Category.
which GOAT are we talking about here? I wouldn't say
Okay.
he's making a case to be the greatest baseball player of all time, but
Mhm.
definitely one of the greatest hitters.
I think the fact that you added context to that and kind of putting it like within adding context and using a category for it. So it's like, okay, line up all the hitters, Derek Jeter, Pujols, you know,
Ken
oh
Griffey.
boy, Pete Rose, you know, all those guys, you know, Ken Griffey, you know, people who really could get that contact and get that hit like that definitely matters. So I think, yeah, or should I say, I definitely Pujols deserves to be within the company and things of that nature. So yeah, I'm actually down with that. That's fine with me. I
Oh
agree
yeah,
with that.
he had that the ESPN commercial where they called him a machine, and he was like, he had the Terminator eye. He was like, I'm not a machine.
I'm not a machine, man. Yeah, Pujols is cold, man.
And
Shout
shout
out,
out to
shout
him, man.
out to
I
Pujols.
think him still being around. I thought he was on his way out, and so for him to
I'm
still be
saying,
around and joining the 700 club, like shouts out to him.
mhm. But
Most
like I always say, if you can play that long, do it. No, if no one's going to kick you out, and you can do it, and you can still contribute in some form or fashion, and you can make history and add to your resume, I'm all for it. You know, so
And so
yeah.
up next, NFL top 10
Oh
top
snap!
10 power rankings.
Mhm, mhm.
How do you want to do this, man? I forgot to ask you before we started the show. Do you want to just name off your top 10? Do you want to go and see what the top 10 is and just kind of give our thoughts on it?
Well, since
Because
we
I
have some time, we
once I looked at once I looked at their top 10 power rankings, I was like, ain't no way. This is
okay.
y'all
So
power
we
rankings.
can pull up the power rankings on there, and then we can kind of give ours, or say what we agree, disagree with, and what we would change. That's cool. If you got the list, because I've seen some power rankings. I know they had a power ranking on there. I think it was an ESPN one where they did it based off defense. And I'm like, you just can't look at just a defense, because if it was just a defense, a whole lot of teams wouldn't be there. So I'm like,
this is NFL. This ESPN's NFL power rankings. So you know me, I like to put 10 all the way up. So coming in at 10, we got the Bengals at 2-2 with a defensive efficiency of 68.2. Their league rank is 7th, and they're ranked at number 10. At 9, we got the Baltimore Ravens with the 52.3 and the 16th ranked defense. We got the Buccaneers with the number 2 defense, and they're at 2-2. We got the Minnesota Vikings with one of the worst defenses in the league. But also, they have one of the best offenses in the league. Then we got the Rams coming in, the middle of the packet as far as defense. And what was that, 6? So we got the Dolphins at 5. Their defense is actually surprisingly low. But I think it's because their offense was doing so much better this year. But
their offense took flight. Yeah.
So surprisingly, we got Green Bay coming in at 3-1 at number 4.
Okay.
We got the Eagles at 4-0 at 3, which is what I supremely disagree with.
Right.
Buffalo Bills coming in at 2 with the number 5 defense. The Eagles have the best defense in the league. And then we got the Chiefs coming in with the number 9 defense, which puts them at number 1.
Okay. So, I'll just let everyone know my power rankings, and maybe you could say maybe it's bias, or maybe it's just because I'm thinking so far ahead right now. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? And this is our first power rankings of the season. It's week 4, but I can only go based off of what I kind of know, and I like to use context, but I didn't go just based off defense, man. I went based off of how teams have played, what they played, who they played, injuries. I factored in injuries for teams. I factored in a lot of different things, formula and all that. So my number 10, I do have the Bucks there, but I have the Bucks at number 10. So I have the Bucks at number 10, and the reason why I have the Bucks at number 10 is I have my rankings right in front of me. Come on, load, please load. Woo. Anyway, so the Bucks, they lost last night, right? Or they lost on Sunday, excuse me. A primetime game to Patrick Mahomes, and their defense, I believe, Ralph, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they were given was it only 9 yards or something, like rushing, or it was some crazy stat. Like their defense was really like legit. Their secondary was doing its thing, right? Mike Evans abused that rookie corner, but their offense leaves a lot to be desired, right? But they're 2-2. And this is Tom Brady devoid of weapons, and they have to rely on the run game. They have to rely on the defense. But I had the Bucks at 10, right? Then I had Green Bay ahead of the Bucks at 9, because Green Bay. Why is Green Bay there? They're 3-1, and they defeated the Bucks in a close, contested game. However, this is the same team that went to overtime, not with just the Patriots, a bad Patriots team, whatever you want to call it, in terms of the offensive side of the ball. Their defense is supposed to be good, which they have a guy by the name of I forgot his name. See, I already forgot his name, but he was. I remember watching him when we played him, and they went to overtime versus that Patriots team with a backup, right? Okay, right. So, but Randall Cobb got going, Romeo Dobbs got going. You started to see life in Lazard and all those different weapons there. Aaron Rodgers has receivers, guys. We need to stop this. So I saw life. So their offense has more life than the Bucks. So I have them over them, and then I'll just kind of rattle off the other guys, and then I'll just go, bro. I mean, I'll let you go, man. I had the Dolphins. So people are like, oh, how do you have the Dolphins this low? Number 7, blasphemy, sacrilege. You must be a hater. Oh my goodness. Hear me out. I think the Dolphins are explosive offensively, but Tua is injury prone, and yes, he got concussions, but he's always been injury prone. And so when you have Teddy Bridge over troubled water, I like Teddy. I support Teddy. However, Teddy We've seen this story many times before. He's not a ceiling raiser. He had that one season in Minnesota. He got hurt. He never really truly recovered from that because when he came back, we realized that he was never a guy that could really push the ball super far down the field. That's not his game. He's middle of the field, boom, boom, boom. He threw that pick, game over. So I think that's going to stagnate their offense some. So I have the Miami Dolphins there, but they did beat the Bills and they beat the Ravens this season. But I don't believe they're better than any of those two teams. I got the Bengals at number 6. They won 2 straight games versus AFC opponents going into a matchup with the Baltimore Ravens. Their offense found life with Joe Mixon, found life with Jamar Chase, who we talked about. Their defense has stepped up behind Trey Hendrickson. I think this Bengals team is only going to continue to get better as the season progresses and season wanes. And then number 5, I'll roll off 5 and 4. Number 5, I have the Jaguars. Why? They shut out the Colts. They shut them out. Well, it was the Colts, but they have a shutout on their schedule. They destroyed, keyword route, destroyed the Chargers, held them to 10 points. Their only loss was to the only undefeated team in the NFL, the Eagles, who Pro Football Focus ranked like number 1 in everything before that game, right? So, yes, they had to lead, and yes, there was turnovers and all that, but that chose to show me that they're a good team. They just have to work out some kinks. I think the Jaguars are a top 5 team right now. And then I'm going to rattle off my last ones, and here's where things are going to get spicy. You ready? My last ones are this. Number 4, I have the Baltimore Ravens. The reason why I have the Baltimore Ravens, this is going to go on MVP, right? You have who I believe is the MVP of the league, and Lamar Jackson. The defense that everyone talks about being so horrible, yes, they give up a lot of yardage, but they just held the number 1 offense in the NFL. Think about this. They held the number 1 offense in the NFL to 23 points, and no one talks about it. They held Josh Allen under 250 yards. They have no run game in Buffalo. Josh Allen ran 11 times for 70 yards. They held Stephon Diggs under 70 yards. No one talks about it. There was a horrible penalty on roughing the passer that wasn't roughing the passer. There was pass interference call that wasn't called. Harbaugh should have utilized Justin Tucker. There's a whole lot of things that should have went the Ravens' way in that game, and they still only lost by 3 points. That's crazy to me. They get a lot of turnovers. They're leading the league in takeaways. They're going to get Odafe Owe for their pass rush, leads the NFL in quarterback hurries. Nobody talks about that. They're getting Tyus Bowser back. They're getting David Ajabo back. Gus Edwards is getting reactivated off the physically unable to perform list. So I believe that the Ravens proved in that game, despite all the talk of their defense being bad, that they can hang with the Chiefs and they can hang with the Bills, but their offense has shown an inability, Ralph, to adjust in the second half of games, and that's putting more pressure on the defense. So if situational play calling is the only issue that the Ravens have, that will be their downfall in the playoffs, not any team actually being more talented to them. And then finally, I got the Bills, I got the Chiefs, and I got the Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. Jalen Hurts. Their first defensive efficiency, sacks, third and takeaways, came back down from 14 points to the Jags at home in the rain behind Miles Sanders, who had 134 rush yards, 2 touchdowns. They have 2 wins on the road, 2 wins at home. And if you notice, Ralph, to end my little soliloquy, the top 4 teams are all MVP candidates. Hurts, Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar Jackson. Oh, so I feel like I feel, that's why I said, hey, people don't have to listen to my rankings. I feel like I kind of projected like more future than what transpired in the week. So maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how I feel. All right.
Yeah,
Go
like
ahead.
for me, man, like I mentioned,
You get the
earlier,
rest of the show, man.
I don't rank you based on what you could do. I rank you based on what you
Right.
So for me, I really would just really swap a couple different picks. Like I got the Eagles. Like I said, the Eagles was one of the main ones that I highly disagree with where they were ranked at. but I got the Rams at 10. I do think they are. I do think that they are having a Super Bowl hangover. They are struggling offensively. But I do think that based off of they always struggle against the 49ers. So I need to see until you show me you're going to play terrible against everybody else, I'm still going to have you as a top 10 team. Because I still had them going at least to the NFC Championship game. If not, maybe going back to the Super Bowl. I don't really remember my prediction to keep it a buck with you. And then
I think it might have been the Super Bowl, but go ahead. Yeah.
And then I got your Ravens in at 9.
Okay.
I think that Lamar Jackson is taking his game to the next level. I'm not going to completely put this loss on him. I think that coaching adjustments, while also when you have a lead, keep running the football, yo.
Yeah.
And so the Buccaneers in at 8. Tom Brady is always going to give them an opportunity, but that defense is not doing what it's supposed to do. The offense is not doing what it's supposed to do. The defense is playing spotty, but then at the same time, the offense is not clicking like it normally would for whatever reason that is. 49ers coming in at 7, defense playing amazing, like I mentioned before. Deebo Samuels, Mitchell, Ayuk, George Kittle. If Garoppolo can make sure that he doesn't give the ball to the other team, they're looking good. We got the Vikings in at 6. I'm still going to put the Dolphins in at 5 because, like I said, I can't fault you for what hasn't happened yet. And so in this next topic, we'll talk about Tua in a little bit and what that means. But then we got the Packers in at 4. Like you said, they might not have the names that he had before. But the Packers are still there. Defense is still playing very well, getting after the quarterback, creating turnovers, still eking out W's, although they went to overtime with a backup quarterback.
Right.
It's still Bill Belichick on the other side of that. On the other side of that. And so we got Buffalo Bills at 3, Chiefs at 2, and like you said, the Eagles to round it out with the best team in the NFL right now. Jalen Hurts, in my personal opinion, I think he should be leading all MVP candidates. And so on to the next one. But before we get to the next one, I do want to shine some light and say rest in peace to Tiffany Jackson, a former NFL player and WNBA player who lost her life to breast cancer over this past couple days. And so I did want to shed some light on that. We always talk about, we shout out our women, our female athletes. And us as two, I don't know about you. I know basketball is my favorite sport. So it sucks, especially I just lost to breast cancer as well. And so I just wanted to shed some light on her and give her 30 seconds of silence. So at 53 minutes and 30 seconds, we would give her silence and pay our respects to her before we finish out this last Tua topic. All right. So there were some changes to the concussion protocol in the what did it say? In the wake of what happened to Tua. What are some changes that you would like to see happen, or did they address the ones that previously had been in effect, you could say?
Yeah, so I think for me, like, when the changes, I think it should be player based. Meaning, okay, so everything that is your protocol should be based off of what's in the best interest of the player's safety. Period. That goes for player injuries in anyway in the NFL. That's what it's supposed to be about. And the NFL has always had a player safety issue. So I believe that's what it needs to be. And I believe that the way the Tua situation was handled, Ralph, was not in the best interest of Tua's health. It was in the best interest of winning a football game. And that's the issue that I have with it. Now, Tua may say, oh, I want to play. Of course, as a player, you want to play. But when I say the best interest of the player's health, I mean, the player can say, I want to play, but that doesn't mean that you're ready to play. And if you don't check out everything and you clearly see the signs of, the stumbling, you obviously have the neurological issues because the back is part of the spine. You have the lumbar spine, you have everything going, your L5, L3, L2, going down your spine. And so that's an issue, a neurological issue. So everything that compounded within, what is it, 4 days? They're talking about like the concussion over that period of time to have back-to-back hits the way that he had is the reason why his body reacted that way. So for me, it's making sure that your protocol should once again be for the players' safety. That's it. Not for competitive advantage. I know even if you're a quarterback, running back, whoever says I would like to play or I feel good, if you know like it's not in the best interest of their health to play, just don't play them. I think that's just where we need to start and go from there.
I think for me, man, I think one of the changes I would like to see is we all seen him stumble.
He almost fell back down.
Exactly. And then he had to get help off the field.
Right.
And carried off the field. So like
with somebody else's assistance, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it's like for me, man, like I don't care what he said he got going on. For his sake, if you really care that much about player safety, side with the side of caution. And so do not put them back in the game. Especially, and then actually, like they really need someone who is truly independent. Because if a person is also with a team for so long, you're no longer independent because you have a relationship with these people. You have a person, you have personal interest in this as well. So I think that they need to find doctors who have no attachment to these organizations, no attachment to the cities in which they are in, because I think that to some point, especially when you start to talk about sports, there's so many different people who are it's one of those things where if you get called in for jury duty, if the moment that you show any too much interest, or you have a bias, or about the case, they go and get someone else.
Yeah.
So when you're bringing in people who are invested in these players or invested in these teams and these organizations, these cities, you have to take that part out of it while also doing what's in the best interest of that player, because we saw Tua stumbling. And then they talk about back and ankle injuries, and it's like I've sprained my ankle a lot. I've hurt my ankles a good amount. I've had knee injuries. I've had upper back injuries. And so it's like I know what that looks like. So for you to sit there in a press conference and look me in my face and tell me some BS like that, some bull jive, like Shannon Sharp would say, like, come on, dog.
Yeah.
We not stupid. Right. And it's like and until they solve that problem, they're going to continue to have these issues. I seen this week, like just before we were getting ready to record, that Tua is not going to play in this next week. Yeah. It's like, duh. If you would have tried to put him in that uniform and put him out on that field, I probably would never watch another NFL game.
Yo, PR nightmare, man. That's crazy.
Exactly. And so it's like, I think in order to really get to that, you have to really sit down and have these genuine, honest, brutally honest conversations with the Players Association, the owners, and all of that, and really try to make some traction, because the last thing that they need is someone dying on the field. His body seized up on the field.
Yeah. Last time I saw that was Willis McGahee.
Right.
Years ago. I believe it was Willis McGahee, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I wish I had more time on it, but we got to get out of here, guys. Make sure you follow all of our socials. Like I said, add an underscore to mine for Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram. Make sure you follow the page itself on Instagram. Make sure you follow Kai on @v.houseofhoops, and we're out of here. Peace out.
Peace.